Replay, Legal Products Instead of Services with Bobby Klinck, episode 217. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I'm excited to share with you yet another replay episode. We're in the series of episodes where we're highlighting information products as a business opportunity, as a practice area, as a way for winning at the marketing game in your law firm. And I'm super excited to share with you this replay with Bobby Klinck. Bobby is one of my favorite people. He's funny, he's witty, and he is an attorney who has taken his knowledge to create a business where he doesn't have to serve clients at all on a one-to-one basis, and he's doing everything by just making his knowledge available for a fee. And you got to jump into this interview and listen for yourself. It's just incredible what he's been able to accomplish, creating a multi-million-dollar business out of legal templates. So stay tuned, listen to this episode, and then let me know what you think. Now, if you're not yet registered for our Hidden Revenue Summit, you don't want to miss out. It's June 15th. If you're listening to this after June 15th, that's okay. Register anyway, because on the confirmation page, we will have all of the replays of the event available for you. Go to www.profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue. One more time, profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue. We'd love to see you there. I'm here with a great interview for you. My friend today, my guest, is a gentleman by the name of Bobby Klinck. Bobby and I have met each other through a business coaching program that I'm a part of. I've mentioned my business mentor, James Wedmore, here on the podcast and in multiple events that I run. I talk about him a lot for a reason, and that is that the man is just a very mindful, heart-centered human being who really just gets business and he gets people, a genius marketing mind. So James has some coaching programs, and both Bobby and I are in some of his higher level programs that he offers, and that has allowed us to meet face-to-face at some live events. Although we do a ton of virtual events here at Profit with Law and the Law Firm Growth Summit, I do attend events in person when COVID is not happening. And that's given me an opportunity to meet some wonderful people. And Bobby is one of those people that I get to count there. I'm going to read off his, official bio. But for those of you who haven't been paying attention, our focus this month is on unlocking the hidden revenue stream of your law practice. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about taking the information that's in your head and turning it into some sort of product, service, subscription offer that you can provide to your audience that is going to amplify the business that your law firm is bringing in. So there are different places in your practice where you're not serving your customers in the best fashion, because the only thing you know how to do is to provide your services, your legal services as an attorney. And the reality is that many people don't need that, but they still need help with the problem that they're trying to solve. And when they come across you along the way, you have a unique opportunity to help them solve that problem. So why are you only offering one option for them? So we're going to be doing a one-day virtual live event where we're going to cover how you do this. We're calling it Unlock the Hidden Revenue Stream. And you can register for that for free at profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue. profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue. So Bobby's a Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur, but he's not your typical lawyer. He doesn't do suits. He hates legalese more than you do and has a tendency to make lame pop culture references and dad jokes. Now, the reality is that his bio is not written for my audience because I'm not sure how many of the people in my audience hate legalese, but we'll keep going. He's built a thriving online business by doing things a bit differently than other people, making the legal and business stuff simple with a focus on building real connections with real people instead of thinking of people as potential transactions. After trying the secret strategies all the expert online entrepreneurs were telling him to do, Bobby realized that building a successful online business isn't about chasing secret ninja tactics. It's about doing the basics right and showing the F up. Getting back to basics helped Bobby skyrocket his business success. Nowadays, besides helping people with the legal stuff, Bobby also helps other entrepreneurs get back to basics and use his unique style of relationship-based marketing to build their own thriving businesses. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And by the way, you mentioned live events, like, so I'm going to put on a virtual event myself at some point for entrepreneurs, not for your audience so much, but like one of the things we were trying to figure out, like I'm a hugger and I miss the physical connection of live events. So I can't wait for them to start again, just because at some point, I'm missing that. I'm missing the chance to really, look, we can look at each other here on Zoom, but candidly, we're never really looking right at each other because one of us is looking at the camera and the other one's looking at the screen, and I miss that connection. So I can't wait for those to start again, by the way. So
yeah, it's funny that you should say that because I also am a hugger, and like sometimes I'm meeting somebody for the first time and I'm giving them a big hug and they're like taken aback, like, whoa, who are you? I don't even know who you are.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, like, when I go to these conferences, a lot of times it's like, I'm basically meeting people who feel like friends because we've been talking to each other online for ages, but we've never met. And so like, we're actually like meeting and in person for the first time, but you feel like old friends. And so it's a great thing. And I love it and I miss them. So that was kind of a side note, but I definitely love these events.
Yeah. I got to put my phone on Do Not Disturb so it's not ringing through a podcast recording. Sorry about that. So Bobby, what I like to do is I like to just first start out with like, who the heck are you? People want to know a little bit about you. So if you can give me the rundown, and you probably don't need to go normally into the whole lawyer part because you're not, that's not the focus of your business, but it's the focus of what I want to talk about. So if you can let me know or let us know how you came into law, a little bit about your experience there, and then what was this transition into the Bobby Klinck company that you're the founder and chief troublemaker of?
Yeah, so I'm happy to. Like, I was a kid, like, people always say, well, what did you want to be when you grow up? And I didn't think about it as like a young kid, honestly. But by high school, so like in high school, I started doing public speaking events. I was doing debate. I was in mock trial. I was in all of those things. So by the time I got to high school, I pretty much knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And kind of that was my thing. And at the time it was my, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the kind of front stage stuff, but also like there was this team, there's this competition that's run nationally for high school seniors, and you have a team at your school. And I don't remember what it's actually called. We called it the Constitution Team because it was like a team event where you would go, you would be given topics in advance and you would prepare, like you would have a panel of three of your, you and two other classmates, and you would act like you were giving an opening statement at a congressional hearing. And then you were asked questions about like the Constitution. And so I fell in love with the Constitution as a high school senior. I loved it. And my topic, like we had different groups, and mine happened to be the Bill of Rights. So I got to basically talk about, the first through the 10th Amendment, like as a high school senior. I don't think a lot of people get to do that. So that really stoked my love of it. It continued in college. I did a kind of a program where I did a dual degree in a humanities and political science, but like I took constitutional law and other legal classes. So I knew that's what I was doing. Went to law school, and out of law school, well, I should back up. Going to law school, I thought, hey, I'm going to work at the ACLU. I'm going to do something like that. Then I go to law school and I go to Harvard, and I kind of got sidetracked, right? I mean, the money, like I graduated in 2002 when the market was just insane. When I was finishing, like when I was a first year in law school, the people who were going to be starting the next year like they were in their last year of law school, like got 3 sequential raises before they even started because like the market was going crazy. And so I got drawn into that. I clerked for a court of appeals judge and then went and did the very traditional white shoe law firm route here in Washington, D.C. I'm from Texas, but I wanted to be an appellate lawyer, I thought, which I think a lot of people who know me now would think is funny. Because the notion that I was going to go and just sit around and think and write and not interact with people, crazy. But that was my original plan. And then I started doing more like trial level litigation work, but still at a big firm. I did that total for about 5 years, then went and became a federal prosecutor in Fort Worth. Because at the time it was just, hey, I need to get stand-up court experience because work at big firms here in DC, you just don't get that. So I was like, oh, let me do that. Got to try cases, fell in love. And coming out of that position, I decided to join a small entrepreneurial law firm here in DC. It was like 2 guys and then me. And I did that. I was there for 4 years, treated fairly, but we kind of made like one of the mistakes that I now help entrepreneurs not make. We didn't have a written agreement. So when my wife was pregnant, we kind of tried to work out how would I join the partnership and how would I actually do that. And the problem was the firm was a largely contingency fee based. So I had all the downside risk of not getting paid when we weren't making money, but I had no guaranteed upside. And we couldn't come to an agreement. So it kind of came to a head when my daughter was actually 3 months old and I left, like with no plan, with no grand scheme. And within 2 days had signed a lease on an office and hung out my shingle.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2014. So I did that. And the problem was like, to back up at that firm, that small entrepreneurial firm, like when I joined them, I had done at big law firms, I had done kind of what I would just call high stakes commercial litigation. So no really area of expertise, contracts, random stuff. But at this small entrepreneurial firm, when I came in the door, they had this little patent infringement case that they didn't know patent law. I don't even know how they had gotten it. So they handed it to me because it got active right as I was joining, right as like other people, like as another case in the firm was getting active too. And so I took that on. And it was me against a team of about 10 lawyers at Skadden Arps who were IP patent litigators against little old me, who's like, outmanned and having tried to learn patent litigation at the same time. So that was my introduction. And I was doing that basically the entire time I was at that firm. I became a patent litigator. And that's kind of what I carried on when I went to my small firm. But if you think about it, that's kind of a hard thing to do as a solo person, because it was this thing where like, I can only really handle a case, maybe 2 at a time. And so I was, it was a tough thing to do, but ironically, and I don't know ironically is the right word here, but actually me having to go out on my own was a huge watershed moment because like to that point, I had never done the marketing. Like I had never been the guy who felt the need to go generate cases. And so I was like, well, I got to do this. And I didn't know what else to do. I first tried the legal marketing stuff, which didn't work for me. And that's how I found my way into online marketing. And like on my shelf, like I had this book that I wrote, Patent Litigation Primer, which was started as like a mini book for clients and turned into a lead magnet that I gave away for free to people like who potentially were interested in it and, self-published, like 200-page, I think about 200-page, 180, 190-page book. And like that kind of led me, and now I don't do anything related to that, but it got me started. And that's kind of what started things. And then I discovered I didn't want to be a litigator. I didn't want to fight anymore. And so I started advising clients, which is kind of what led to my online business where I'm not practicing law. I'm selling legal templates to help online entrepreneurs.
Okay. So I love the journey and I love how you ended up there. And I want to talk about what you do now and then kind of go back to your story and just touch on the one little gray area of how did you cross this divide from having a law firm to this other business. But let's talk about what you do now, providing legal templates to online entrepreneurs. What does that look like? Do you still consider yourself to be a law firm in that capacity, or is
in that capacity, I'm not. So like I made the decision at the beginning, like I was simultaneously, and technically I still am running my law firm. I still have one litigation case that it's in DC Superior Court. It's not patent litigation. It was like one of the first, it's a offshoot of one of the first cases I took that came in the door when I started my own firm. And so I'm still working that. But I made the decision right away that when I was going to do my online business, I wanted to separate it out from my law firm so that it would be very clear. I am not practicing law over there. I am not giving you legal advice. I am giving you education. I'm giving you resources. So I did that from the start. So I have two LLCs. I have Klinck LLC, which is my law firm. And then I have Your Online Genius LLC, which was my original business name, but I changed it later, but that's still the LLC I operate under. So, my view is that part of the business, I'm LegalZoom for online entrepreneurs, basically, because the particular templates that we need in this business, like LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer, none of those things have them. So I'm providing a service like they are, which is not practicing law.
Now, what's crazy to think, and I'm sure that's at least some of my listeners are sitting there thinking, really? You're making money selling legal templates? Like that's a thing. So
Yep.
Could we talk about that for a moment? Because some people are going to have their minds blown with what's possible by just thinking outside of the box, which is very rare for an attorney and in general to think of packaging their services differently than what they're used to. How'd you come up with the idea? And what kind of volume do you need to have a real significant business out of this?
Well, so, and again, what I would say is like the idea came to me because what was happening was as I started, like when I started kind of like dipping my toe in the online space, I wasn't selling that. I was like educating. I was going on to podcasts, talk about the legal stuff, and I didn't really know what exactly was going to come of it. I wasn't sure, but that's what I was doing. And so people started coming to me. But the problem was they were always coming to me after the ish had hit the fan. It was like after things had gone bad. And the reason, I don't want to say all the time, but 90% of the time, it was because they basically at the beginning said, we don't have the money, so we're not going to hire a lawyer. We don't have another option, so we'll go without a written agreement. That was kind of the common theme, the common story that I was seeing over and over again. And a lot of the times there was nothing I could do. I mean, I could say, well, yeah, you could hire me and I could fight this, but you're going to end up spending more on me than it's going to be worth. So really your only option is to, I don't know, just try to figure it out and whatever. And so I kept seeing that happen. It happened like in the context of like, one case that came to mind, it wasn't even online entrepreneurs at the time, but they came to me as like local counsel for a case. But like they brought a guy on as they thought he was a consultant, a contractor. He thought, no, I'm a partner. And so there was this dispute, but there was no written agreement. And so you think about it, and you can kind of imagine this. I had to say, well, you might win, but the reality is you're not getting this case thrown out because he's going to say, hey, you called me a partner. You represented the world. I was a partner, so I'm a partner. And it's going to be a trial, or you're going to just have to pay him off. And so that was the kind of thing that kept happening. And so that's what led me to this notion. I said, is there a way for me to help people who like literally can't, at the time I was a $400 to $500 an hour lawyer, but even if you're a $250 an hour lawyer, drafting an agreement from scratch is not cheap. And so I just said, is there a way for me to provide something it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough. It's going to be better than nothing, in a sense, was what I was thinking. And that's what got me thinking. And I looked, candidly, I had used LegalZoom to create my will for my, when my daughter was born. So it's like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Now, I don't have the fancy technology that they do where you answer a bunch of questions and it fills it all in and spits it out. I could figure that out, but I don't worry about that. But I use the same model and the same idea. And I said, I can do the same thing. And so kind of that's what got it started.
Now, what I find really interesting is here I am trying to open the eyes of the legal community to recognize that there's more potential and there's more that you can do than just providing the legal service that you provide. And you're a stellar example of that. I mean, here, I've taken my knowledge, I've put it into, I've drafted essentially a bunch of documents and just put in some places where it says insert name here, insert other person's name there, and boom, I've got something that I can sell. I did the work once and I can just keep selling it over and over again, which is really the beauty of an information product business. And what I like is that this is a very different information product than what most of us are used to seeing out there. We're used to seeing training programs, membership sites with ongoing support or community. This is where you have a kind of a tangible product. It's virtual. It's a file that you're selling, but you're selling a tangible item, and you're solving a need, which is somebody who would not retain an attorney otherwise. Yeah. Right. So we're going to somebody who would be left unprotected, and we're now serving that person. And that's in my intro to the show today. I highlighted that, which is there's so many people that we're leaving behind that we're not allowing to receive legal services because they can't afford, or it doesn't make sense for them. The risk is not great enough for them to engage us yet. And then at that point, it's okay, so screw you, and I love that your position to help people who are in that position where there is no answer for them.
Well, yeah. And look, for like your listeners who want to like I had kind of decided I didn't really want to keep my law firm. And part of that was like, literally, for my personality, I chose completely the wrong practice area. I should not have been a litigator, because the idea of fighting all day with people, sometimes about really stupid stuff, like, do you have to give me a legible copy or not, like in discovery fights, I just wasn't suited for that. But I had kind of made that decision. But for your listeners who don't want to do that, what I can tell you is I have people all the time who find me through these templates, but then want to hire me. And I'm like, no, I don't do that anymore. But aside from being a revenue stream where you're actually kind of expanding the people you can serve, it actually will be a great way to actually generate leads of people who are ready to hire you. I did that like a little bit back when GDPR was becoming a thing on this online privacy. A lot of people just wanted a done for you solution. And so I did a little bit of that, but nowadays I don't do it. And my team understands that. And I say, no, we're not taking that. But I mean, there's not a week that goes by without me having a client want to hire me because they heard about me because of my templates. So aside from that, it's out. And I realized I didn't answer one of your questions before, because you were asking like volume. I don't know how many I'm selling on a monthly basis, but we're now at a point, like now my focus is on building the business stuff side of my business. I don't really put much effort into the legal stuff anymore. And pretty much every month we have about $25,000 of sales just kind of clip through. It just kind of happens without a ton of effort. And there are not a lot of people in our space in the online world who can say that, who have a truly passive, it just kind of happens business. And I have that. And it's the kind of thing that if you can find the right thing to package up, you can make it work. But I mean, you do have to put some work in. Like you mentioned, it's different than a lot of people. Like I started out by trying to offer a course. And what I discovered is, and I guess I should have known this, in my space, people don't want a course. They don't want to learn. They just want their problem solved. And so it was like, okay, let me just solve the problem for them. And that's when I transitioned. Like I have training stuff that's free. I just give all that away. Anybody can take any of that stuff. I just charge for the templates.
And I love that. And I just, it just gets the wheels turning like that. And that's what we're doing here on the podcast and in the upcoming summit is we're presenting ideas that you can now have. Oh, I never thought of that. Now I have some food for thought on what's possible for me. People listening to this saying, oh my gosh, $25,000 a month and you're not doing anything. Like, how is that happening? So I want to switch gears into, how do you build something like that? And I'm guessing that it has something to do with platform and audience, but I'd like to know from you, like what was involved in navigating that process, and what did you have to do to get to the point where now you've got this recurring revenue coming in every month that you're not needing to actively be going out and seeking clients?
So what it is, and again, I don't want your listeners to think that that happened overnight. I mean, that is the way I look at that. And I joke, the number 2 on my team, the woman who really kind of runs my business, it drives her nuts because we can't track where this stuff is coming from. People just like land on my page, and we found most of them land on my about page, which if you Google my name, my about page is one of the top results. So where people are Googling me, we're not sure why. It's really just organic at this point. But what I say is it's the accumulated goodwill that I've built up over the last about 2 years. I really had my first breakthrough month as a lawyer serving online entrepreneurs in May of 2018. And it was kind of a couple of months before there, I just started serving and I became a presence. So again, I don't want you to believe that you're just going to spin something up and it happens overnight. But I became a presence who just like could answer questions, could tell people what they needed to do, and I didn't do it in a marketing way. Oh, buy from me. No, I just answered questions. I served. I did that. And so now and your listeners may not, if they're not a Facebook active on Facebook, they don't get this, but like, there will be times like I log on to Facebook and I've got like 30 notifications and I know exactly what happened. Someone asked a question about a legal thing in one of the groups that I'm active in, and I got tagged 30 times. Or like they said, well, where do I get a template? And I got tagged 30 times. So now I basically have this army of brand advocates and brand ambassadors who love me and just tell everybody about me, so I don't have to do it myself. And I think, again, this is an important thing where we as lawyers are a bit different than a lot of professions. I at least know in this space that I deal with now, the first lawyer that serves someone becomes their lawyer forever. And I say that, I'm not even their lawyer, right? But becomes their resource for legal stuff forever. And if you can get people like with an information product before they're ready to hire a lawyer for your listeners, you become their lawyer in their mind. When they really want to hire someone, they're going to come to you. So that's why I think it's kind of, getting them there at the beginning is the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah, I have a video ad running on Facebook right now, specifically targeting people into this event on June 15th. And what's interesting is that I made this exact point, except you just said it so much better. I need to change my script and go back and re-record that video. But this is a point that I am trying to make with my coaching students and here on the podcast. It's not even so much about serving the audience and serving the people that need your help. It's getting involved in that process before they need you. And the examples that I give is, if you're a bankruptcy attorney, create something that's going to help people get out of debt, because there's going to be a percentage of those people that are going to fail at doing that. Along the way, you're going to get way more people that are able to take advantage of what you have to offer. And then the ones who fail become your bankruptcy clients. If you're a family law attorney, create some sort of program or way that people can try to fix their marriages. And then when they fail, they're going to come to you as their divorce attorney. So there's always a pain point before the step before they're coming to you, which at that point you have a larger population that you can serve. You're not competing with any other law firms. There's nobody else doing that. So it gives you that leg up way ahead of anybody else. And they're never going to call another law firm and say, hey, I need to get divorced. What's it going to cost me? And how do I work with you? Because they want to work with you. Yep. They have this established relationship. Even if it's a one-way relationship, they have this established relationship with you and they resonate with you. I was talking to one of my coaching clients just last night and I said, let me point this out to you. Why are you working with me right now? Did you go and shop around? There's a lot of coaches out there. Did you go and shop around with a bunch of coaches to find out who's the cheapest and who, or who has the most reviews? Or no, you came to me because you listened to my podcast, because you attended one of my summits, because something that I said resonated with you, because something that I did resonated with you, because you, like me, you felt that I was going to be the solution to your problem. And that's what an information product, and I'm bundling a lot of things in there, but that's what an information product can do for you to build your law practice, is create that runway of leads where it completely changes the game in marketing. You're no longer needing to compete with Google pay-per-click or, wondering about your land, where you are in the map pack and SEO. All of that goes out the window because you got your leads coming from your own source, and you no longer need to worry about the rest. What I like about what you shared, that you don't know where your leads are coming from, and you think it's from here, you think it's from there. The idea there is that you at least have something going for you, which is you've got what I call a profile funnel, right? So your social media profiles are all geared to pointing somebody to take an action somewhere. There's a first step in your journey, and whether it's your About Me page, your website, or your social profile, they're all driving somebody to one place. And this requires extreme clarity on what it is that you do and how you offer it and how you position it to the people that are going to come across you. And then it's a matter of just getting highlighted. You don't even need to have your own podcast, your own blog to get in front of people. You just get on other people's podcasts and write for other people's blogs and show up in other people's Facebook groups and provide value to people. And then they're going to be checking you out. And now you've got this tribe who's tagging you everywhere. And I just threw a word out there that's foreign to law firm owners. But this, tribe is basically this community of people who believe in you, whether a lot of them are not even your clients, right? They just heard about you. They've gotten help from you in a post somewhere along the way. So they know about you, so they throw your name around. And that's the power of creating that foundation on the front end. And it becomes a different way to build a business. It's so much less frustrating and so much more enjoyable, although it's not easy. I'm not trying to paint that picture for you.
Well, but so like something that I want to highlight in there that you're saying, like, just to be clear on, like, when I was telling my story, I told you that at first I started with the legal marketing stuff, and then I threw that all out the window because I'm guessing this is not what you teach, but pretty much every lawyer I know thinks of marketing as, I'm going to write articles for other lawyers. I'm going to go to bar events with other lawyers. I'm going to mix and mingle with other lawyers. Now, when I was at a big law firm, maybe that made sense because my clients would be corporations where it's like they are, the general counsel is making the decision. So maybe it makes sense for that kind of lawyer. But for the rest of us, why? Look, if you're a divorce attorney, you should be talking to people who might be getting divorced, not other lawyers. And I'm not saying don't be involved in the bar or anything like that. If you want to do that, great. But that's not marketing. Marketing is getting in front of and like being with your potential customers. And, it's partly about like being with them. But the other thing I want to say is like, I think a lot of people make this mistake, and not just lawyers. Like they go in like guns blazing. They go in and just start, talking and talking and talking. Start by listening. Because we honestly don't know, like, a lot of times what our people are saying, the words they're using. When you start using those words, that's gold. That's when things really take off. Like people have commented to me recently that like my sales pages where I sell my legal templates, like the language on there, like speaks directly to them. And they're blown away by it. I said, well, that's because I've spent the last 2 years hanging out with all of you. And so I know what your frustrations are, what your pain points are, where you are, what you're thinking. And so I can speak to that. And that's the thing, we lawyers, we have to get better at this because I hope people aren't offended by this, but most of us suck as marketers, like until someone actually gives us a kick in the rear and wakes us up from what we were doing before.
Yeah, and I don't want to get lost too far down the rabbit hole of the marketing discussion, but folks, check out episode 29 of the podcast. It's a classic. Why choosing a niche will skyrocket your firm. And that's where it starts, right? If you don't know who you're talking to, if you don't know who your audience is, you can't possibly know what their pain point is, and you can't possibly communicate in their language. And Bobby's making a really, really good point here, which is you need them to believe that you're in their head. You need them to believe that you know their thoughts, because that's what's going to create that affinity to say, hey, this is the person for me. You don't want to be in a position where you're the Walmart in the law firm industry, where you're competing with everybody else. So you got to have the lowest price on every product that you sell. You want to be able to position yourself with charging what you're you're worth and charging what you want to charge so that you can attract the clients you want to attract. But that happens because somebody has already decided that they want to work with you. And that's because somewhere along the way, you spoke to them in a way that touched them, in a way that they believed you understood them in a way that nobody else does. And that happens by getting really intimately aware of who your audience is. So instead of, the first mistake is you have multiple practice areas, which, so small law firms, I can see, and we can all see how that happens, right? You need money. Somebody walks through the door and says, "Hey, I know you're an attorney. I've got this, landlord tenant issue, and you do family law." "Oh, no problem. I'll do it." And now you spend the next 3 weeks researching landlord tenant issues because you got to make a couple of $1,000. So now I can't take any more family law cases for 3 weeks because I'm busy with this landlord tenant issue. But that's how it happens. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm a real estate attorney, on your website, and you start adding these practice areas because I dabbled in this, I dabbled in that. But you're constantly running around just reacting to what's walking through the door instead of specifically finding the people that you want. So getting honed in on not just a practice area, which is not choosing a niche, but getting honed in first on the practice area and then figuring out, okay, who is it that I serve in this area? You're a family law attorney. Don't try to serve everybody. Focus on one particular subset of the market. Maybe it's, young parents of kids. Maybe it's, people who are now empty nesters suddenly realizing that they really don't like the person that they're with for the last 30 years. Maybe you're just focusing just on some, middle class divorce couples, or maybe you're focusing on Hollywood movie star divorce cases, but focus in on one specific market segment so that you can talk to that segment, so you can have their language and use their language. So just go check out that episode. It's a common thread, a common theme of a lot of what I talk about here on the podcast. But that's the start of the conversation of information products, because you can't introduce an information product into your stream of offerings and into the way that you market your firm if you're not absolutely clear on what you do and who you serve. So that's really step number one, is to really get clear on that. And Bobby, how did you settle on online entrepreneurs? I think you kind of set, you were doing your own market research to figure out how to market, and then that ended up putting you in that community. Is that just how it happened?
Well, so kind of, but I have to follow up on like kind of what you were saying there, because it's funny. I was laughing about so many different things in there, but on the tail end, you were talking about creating an information product that you can't really do that until you have a niche. And so at the time that I was kind of, coming into the space, I was still doing like IP law. So I was still talking to like tech companies quite often. And so I had started doing that, and I was like helping tech companies, but then also I was helping online entrepreneurs because I was in that space. So here's the funny thing. At first, I thought I'm going to create a course to teach the legal stuff to entrepreneurs. This was my mindset. And I laugh at that because the term entrepreneur, like I was literally going to try to create a course that would work for tech entrepreneurs, like tech startups and online marketers and coaches. And that was just ridiculous, because if you think about it, yes, maybe there's one or two things they have in common that I could teach them. Like I could teach them the basics of like intellectual property law. But at the same time, even if I did that, it wouldn't even be the relevant stuff, because like online coaches and course creators, they don't need to know about patent law. They need to know about copyright and trademark law. Well, whereas the tech people, patent is what they really care about. So that was my original goal. And so when I think of niching, I always tell people, when you think you've niched far enough, go at least 2 more layers down, because most of us don't do it well enough. I ultimately made the decision because, number one, this was a more underserved community. Like, if you think about it, there are a lot of people who help tech startups, but there aren't as many. And there's some other lawyers who do what I do in the space, but I wanted to serve this group. And also, candidly, I like these people. I like the people in the space that I serve. And to me, that was a big motivator. I wanted to enjoy what I did for a living. I wanted to enjoy being around the people that I was going to be serving, because I knew that I was going to have to be the chief cook and bottle washer. And so I was going to have to put in a lot of work. And if I was going to put in a lot of work, I wanted to be hanging out with people I liked. So that's kind of what led me to it. But I'll say, like, even in that, I've continued to niche, because at first I was thinking, okay, online entrepreneurs. But then at some point I said, look, if you're an Amazon seller, I'm not your guy. If you have a physical product like store online, I'm not really your guy. I'm your guy if you're selling information products or services. If you're a coach, if you're a course creator, if you're a service provider in the online space, if you have a membership site, those are the people I serve, because that is a very specific group that I can serve with a single product or single set of products, and I can reach with a single message. And that's kind of how I think niching. I want those two things to both match. That's when I know I've gone far enough.
You mean you can build a business and really enjoy the process at the same time?
Yeah. Like, I literally say to people, and this is the difference. Like, well, and again, I don't want to like talk bad about the law, because it's not a problem. A lot of people love it. But when I was like practicing, anytime my phone binged, it made my heart sink, because as a litigator, more times than not, it's bad news. It's, maybe it's a bad order. Maybe it's something that means all of a sudden you got to do some work on, like, the weekend or something like that. Whereas now when my phone bings, it's almost always a good thing. And I feel like it's
a Stripe message saying you receive money.
Right. It could be that. But even if it's not that, it's often like just someone in my community reaching out, wanting to tell me something. And it's like, literally, I feel like I'm waking up every day and going and playing with my friends and making a ridiculous living doing it. That, I mean, to me, is like the ultimate thing, the ultimate place you want to get. Now, when I was first doing this, I was enjoying it, but I was, before I really got into our good friend James's world, I was running myself ragged. I was the quintessential solopreneur doing everything. Like, even to the point, like, even when I had a $250,000 online business, I had no help, not even contractors. It was just me. And so it took me a while to get out of that mindset. But now, I mean, I'm sitting here and, like, I've got a team that helps me do all this stuff. So I get to go and just like talk. I get to come do this, talk to you, and have fun and create content. And later today, I have a big Facebook group. It's not for your audience, but we're doing this thing called Radical Giving Thursdays, because radical giving is one of my core values. And so we're just literally having people who are in my community come on, who are willing to just lend their expertise. So I get to do that today. And that's just like so much fun that it's amazing. And it all became possible because I opened my mind that there was another way, and that information products would do it. And again, I don't want to sound like you have to quit law. Literally now, if I were willing to go get licensed in California and wanted to have a law practice, I could be writing contracts and charging people $1,000 an hour, because so many of my people are over in California, and they would pay me that. I don't want to do that, but I could. And I want you to get a sense that that's what's possible. And none of that has anything to do with my Harvard law degree or the practice I had at a big law firm. It's what I've done with these templates. It's what I've done by creating this information product that has created that demand for me.
Yeah, it's just, it's crazy that you can choose to do that. Like, people who are listening to this, I very specifically wanted to be careful going into this promotion, not to try to convince you that the business you have is the wrong business. That's not the message I want you to get. But the people that I'm parading in front of you, many of them have chosen to focus specifically on their information products business and leave their law practice, close their law practice, or minimize the amount of work they're doing in their law practice. And the reason that that's happening is because they suddenly found that there's a much better way to amplify the time and effort that they're putting in. And by doing the work once, and then being able to just serve many, many people with that same body of work is really what this whole concept of information products is. And the ultimate information product is a book. Right? That's been around for the longest time. And there's a lot of attorneys who understand and get the concept of becoming an author, writing a book. It's the world's best business card, right? You hand somebody your book and say, here, this is for you. And it has to be for your target market, right? It has to be written for the person that you're handing it to. But if you hand them your book, are they more likely to come to you for their legal for their legal issues? Yes. So that's why I want to try to break this barrier and say, look, information products can be a game changer for your law firm. It can totally change the way that you do business. You may decide that that's so much more effective and so much more efficient at trying to do what you want to do that you close your doors. That could be something that you do, but it's not a necessity. As a matter of fact, it can skyrocket the growth of your actual law practice at the same time that it skyrockets your personal growth, because not only are you increasing the clients coming through the door on the service side of your business, but you also have all this revenue you're generating from the information products business. So I firmly believe that somebody who keeps the business and introduces information products, navigates it properly, which I want to talk about next. You can literally 10x your business in 12 months if you do this right. And that's what I want people to start to think about, start to see this potential and possibility.
Yeah. And let me like focus in on that for a second, because again, like I'm always careful about saying this. I made the choice that's right for me. When you get your information product business, what it does is it gives you freedom. It gives you the freedom to make the decisions you want to make. And that decision might be, I'm going to raise my rates in my service business. It might be, I don't feel compelled to take all the clients on. I just take my ideal perfect client on because I don't need the revenue and people are willing to pay me more. There's all kinds of things that become possible when you have this there. And that's why I said, like I said, if I wanted to, I could go, I think I could probably wave into California now, since I've been a lawyer for like 18 years now. So I think I could wave in and then like literally start doing that if I wanted to. If that's what I wanted, I would have that power and I could bring in, I don't even know. I could easily bring in like $30,000 to $40,000 a month on that side of the business without having to do a ton of work. I've simply chosen that's not right for me. But I mean, think of that power that you would have if that's the business you have, where all of a sudden you have this information products, which means you don't have to work as hard. You can work fewer hours for fewer clients, just for your ideal clients, and charge more doing it. And then you have the info products for everybody else that helps them do it themselves. It's a pretty good model.
Yeah, and I actually do. So I don't talk about this a ton here on the podcast, but it's worth noting. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant, and I came to this because I got 5 attorneys, 5 law firms as accounting practice clients, and they all had the same problem. They all had coaches helping them build the top line of their business, but they were not paying attention to the financials, didn't understand the financials of their business, and therefore they were struggling. Beautiful offices, nice sized staff, struggling payroll to payroll to literally to move money into the payroll account to pay their people. And I just said, this is a broken model, and probably the bulk of the industry is operating this way, and I can come in and be a new lens, a new way of looking at things. And that's how I got started with the legal community and here with the Profit with Law podcast. But I can tell you, in my own business, we still have a fully functional accounting practice. In the first quarter of 2020, our source of revenue changed. In Q1 of 2019, we had 20% information products revenue, 80% service-based revenue in the accounting practice. In 2020, first quarter, exactly the opposite. 80% information products business, 20% service-based revenue. And I don't know long-term whether I'm going to keep the accounting practice open. I know for sure one thing. It's not going to be me doing the work long-term. If I keep that part of the business open, I'm going to bring on CPAs, bookkeepers onto the staff to handle the load and actually run that business for me, so that I just am funneling my people into that business to be served well, and at the same time, benefit from it financially. I love doing this so much more. I love talking to people, helping people, seeing their results and their wins. That doesn't happen by doing their taxes or giving them a good tax strategy. Right? That happens by helping them get past themselves, which is the biggest stumbling block that business owners have, which we get in our own freaking way. And we do that all the time. So we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that we talk about this. How did you figure it out? So somebody says, okay, I want to run an information products business. And the reality is that once you start going down that rabbit hole, there's a gazillion experts. There's a ton of people I'm going to tell you how to do it. And I know that I'm dialed into the same resource that you're dialed into, but I also know that similar to your journey, I probably took longer than you. I started in 2014 knowing I wanted to do an information products business, but at the same time being confused about what that looks like, and constantly drumming up accounting clients in the process instead of figuring out how to position myself and sell an information product. And it took me a long time. And we're in 2020, we're 6 years in, and I'm still figuring it out. I'm way more successful today than 2014, but at the same time, I'm not walking around saying, hey, I'm making 8-9 figures a year, doing information products, which is totally possible for me and for anybody who's listening to this. So my question to you, Bobby, is what did you discover along the way? If somebody can take some shortcuts, what are the things that they can do as they're setting out on this journey to figure out how to do this?
Yeah, well, and so this is the thing. What I would say is, like, in a lot of ways, I think from like 2014 to 2017, I was actually very much doing the things kind of like you were. I was using it as, hey, how can I use information products online, and not even products, but informational tools, not anything I was selling, as a way to build my law practice. And it came, like, when I told my story of how it happened. I told you I started my own firm without a plan. I had this one client who came. It was a contingency fee case. So luckily, like, we got a big, not huge, but a big enough payday that it basically kind of covered me for about a year. And I'm trying to find new clients, and I kind of sucked at it. And I was doing a lot of the stuff you were talking about. I said, well, I will, you know what? I can be like the behind the scenes appellate lawyer for other lawyers who will write their briefs. And I could do this. And I had like my website, and I was doing all that stuff, or trying. And at some point my friend said, well, what do you do exactly? That was a sign maybe I had niched right. But because I had more time, I was digging into all this stuff. And I think it was 2014, late 2014, I stumbled upon this online platform called HubSpot, which is like about online marketing and all this. And I became certified as an inbound marketer, which is basically, for, if your listeners, I assume most of them would know this concept, but it's, you write a blog post, you write something, and then people come, they sign up for a freebie and get on your list. So I was like, this is a good idea. So I dabble with this. I think, let me see, I can look, I got this book here. I think I wrote this patent litigation primer. I think I published it in 15. Yeah. At the end of 2015. So December, 2015, I published my book, self-published. By the way, it's an Amazon bestseller. And I think I sold like 25 copies in a month, and that, in that specific niche, 25 copies got me Amazon bestseller for a couple of days. But so I did that. And that's kind of how I was using it. And I had blog posts, and I created another book. I forgot what it's even called. But at some point, I was just kind of unhappy in life, not in business, but in life. And so I started working with a life coach. And it would have been in the spring of 2017, after we were dealing with life and relationship and all that. She said, well, let me ask you this. Do you like what you do for a living? And I stumbled. And kind of for the first time, I admitted to anyone other than maybe my wife that I really didn't. Because again, I had mentioned to you earlier, like, me as a litigator, it didn't make sense. And so then, like any good coach would say, okay, what are we going to do about that? And she said, you just have a way of explaining things. I could see you going on to podcasts, going on to, helping people. And so that would have been, like I said, spring of 2017, and a flip switched. Switch flipped.
Yeah,
Sorry.
switch flip.
Yeah, switch flipped. And I said, one thing that's good about me is I am a fire, ready, aim kind of guy. So I had that call with her. It was like on a Wednesday or Thursday. By that weekend, I had hired a podcast booking agent and said, I want you to get me booked on like 20 podcasts in the next month. And so I got booked on a ton of podcasts. And so I just started going out there. Now at the time, I still was giving people like my suit law firm picture, you know, in the classic lawyer pose as my thing, and the bio was about my law firm. But over time, I just got better at it. And that year, at first, I tried to do the dumb thing of, oh, I can create a course. I don't need to take, you know, I don't need anyone's help from this. I can just listen to free resources and figure it all out. And so I did that, and it flopped. I paid a lot of money for Facebook ads. I sold 0. No, sorry, I sold 1, but she asked for a refund on day 29 of my refund policy. But then I decided to invest in myself. And that was kind of the game changer. In 2018, I invested in like a ton of things. At the beginning of the year, I signed up for this. Ironically, I signed up for a program about how to create a high ticket product, which makes no sense for a lawyer because the challenge for lawyers is making it low ticket, not expensive. That was another thing. But then I signed up for this program called B School, which is put on by this woman, Marie Forleo, in the online space. And it's funny, like at the time, that was the $2,000 investment. And it was like, it seemed like a big investment for me at the time. But I invested in myself. And by the end of that year, my business was skyrocketing. My information product was skyrocketing. Again, I was still running the law firm. I didn't have a ton going on, but I was still running it. And then by the end of that year, you know, I dropped 25 G's to join James's mastermind, which, you know, that's kind of his highest level product. And I didn't think twice about it because the change that had happened. And my intent at that point was to be 100% info product, focus 100% on that. And like my law firm, I still have a contingency fee payments coming in like monthly for another like year and a half that I have to manage. So I couldn't close down my firm, but I was, you know, going to just stop doing anything else. And then in January of last year, I had these, I call them zombie cases. They were offshoots of 2 prior cases, kind of came up out of nowhere. And I felt the responsibility to my clients because they had invested a lot of money, and for them to hire someone else, they would have, you know, one case, it would have spent like $250,000 to get the other lawyer up to speed. The other one, not so much, but it was an individual rather than a company. So I took those on. So last year I spent my year literally trying to navigate the 2 and trying to figure out, okay, I got this time here and I got that time here. And so I started to set systems up. And that was kind of the big game changer, because that's what one of the things that James always helped me to see is that I needed to get that stuff set up in my online business. And he helped me get over a lot of the mindset stuff. Like when I joined his mastermind, I kind of thought really my only mindset issue I thought was imposter syndrome, that like, I was like, well, who am I to be with, you know, these big players? Now I know I got a lot of other mindset things that I have to deal with. And I have, I mean, you know, over the last year and a half, I have like the shift in me has been unbelievable. Like now, I mean, I have a team and like, they'll ask me questions about which one I prefer. I really don't care. You guys just decide and do it. I mean, you know, and that for me was this huge shift. And so it's been important. And even the journey in my online world, like, you know, I'm the legal guy. Well, as the legal guy in this space, I recognize I can't really have an expensive product, because that would be practicing law, right? Any kind of one-on-one is practicing law. Nobody wants a group coaching program for legal stuff. That would be weird. So for a long time, I was just doing that in the online space. And then I kind of found that I love the other stuff, you know, kind of like you. I mean, you're an accountant, but now you're doing this information product that's not strictly accounting. And it's the same thing that's kind of happened to me. And so it's been this wonderful journey, but I mean, it's not something that happens and it's easy. You have to make these intentional decisions. But again, if you want to do like sell info products just to build your practice, that's easy. I mean, that's about building a following, and you'll have to learn some things. But ultimately, one of my favorite things that I said, it was an Instagram thing I said at some point and people loved it. And I really attribute it to James, is like, you know, knowledge is knowing a lot of different marketing tactics. Wisdom is knowing to not use more than a few. And that's the thing that, you know, we have all of these people, and your listeners probably don't, but you and I, we have, I don't know, it's not thousands, but it feels like thousands of people yelling at us that we have to do this and we have to do that and we have to do this and it's got to be that and you got to do it. And if you listen to all that and try to do it all, oh my goodness, that's not going to work. You have to find the person you resonate with and, you know, listen to a couple of really good people. Again, I say that I still buy lots of courses and I take them and I listen, you know, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But I have a couple of people who are like the people I looked to, and they are really my coaches and my guides. And, you know, they help me decide. James is one of them. And I'm sure that's true for you as well.
Yeah. And I want to just, I, I was getting feedback for a moment, so I hesitated there to allow it to die down. I apologize. I wanted to talk about my own experience too, because as our listeners are listening to this throughout this month and they start to say, oh, I have to do this, you suddenly get this like eager beaver syndrome where you start doing your own research and figuring out how to navigate it yourself. And I want to tell you that what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a gift. And that gift is I'm going to show you the fastest way to implement this. And that is because I, over the past 5 years, have spent over $50,000 buying people's courses and memberships and how-tos and being involved in their communities. And throughout that entire process, I joined one, which is James Wedmore's. He calls it Business by Design. And he sells, you know, his initial product is a course that you can buy that is basically the information products business in a box toolkit. Yep. It's everything that you need, including processes already written out for you on how to do every single step of the marketing process, a process on how to sell it before you make it. All kinds of things like that. But he also teaches you how to build a team, how to hire people to do the work, how to get inexpensive staff by going overseas to the Philippines to get staff there. All kinds of things. It's all encompassed in this one product. And then if you want help on, you know, with getting out of your own way, keep on going, he even has levels above that. I'm in his inner circle. You're in his inner circle mastermind. I'm in his next level group coaching program. Those are more expensive, but his initial product, it's like $3,500, something like that. It's,
no, I think it's 3,000. I think it's 3,000. I think it's 3,000. I don't even think it's 3,500. And can I say something real quick? Like, sure. I wish I had found it at the beginning, because like his processes and all that stuff, what's amazing is he literally, like a lot of the stuff, if you're using the same, like if you were coming in kind of cold and you were looking for an information product in a box business, and you say, okay, well, he says I'm gonna use this software, so I'm gonna use this software. You can literally just like take his stuff and load it into yours. You don't even have to do, I mean, it's amazing. My problem was I didn't find him until I had all like those systems set up elsewhere. So I have to do a little more work to take it, but I still, like, his stuff is invaluable. Right. And those processes are amazing. And like I used, you mentioned hiring people overseas. I used one of the trainings he's got and went out and hired myself a video editor who's now our graphic designer basically on staff full time for like, it's costing me $1,000 a month is what I'm paying for full-time video editing and design in my business. And I do a lot of design. And then we hired someone else over there who is helping to like handle my inbox and like does all of that stuff, sorts all the different stuff, goes through like transcripts that are automatically created and fixes them and does that stuff. And I'm just saying, like, I couldn't have done any of that without James. He taught me all of that stuff. And to be clear, he didn't teach it to me in the mastermind. He taught it to me through that Business by Design, which I get as a member of his mastermind. I mean, the value in that thing is unbelievable. I can't believe it's there all in one place.
So what we're doing is we're doing this one-day summit, June 15th, where we're going to take you through the overview of this journey. What does this look like for you to implement this information product in your business? And then on the end of that, we're going to introduce you to James's program. I'm not going to stand here and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to go through an information product and create it. I'm going to give you the best guy in the business to teach you how to do it. So don't get ahead of yourself. Don't go crazy. Just keep consuming this content I'm feeding you, because right now it's the idea phase. Right now it's the time for you to just be thinking about, okay, who am I serving? How am I serving them? What is their pain point? What is the perfect thing for me to introduce to them where I can take the information I already have, bottle it up in some way? And what's beautiful is that we had, Joey Vitale come on, talk about courses. We had another Tangi Carter come on. She does group coaching with female female law firm owners. We have you come on. You do templates. So like we're hitting all these different points where it's not one size fits all. It's not one solution for everybody. And that's what I want you to focus on now, is just start thinking about how can I serve people best by introducing something that's going to be an alternative to working with me, a preemptor to working with me, or even a post working with me. And that's another thing where, there's room. Like, let's say you're a bankruptcy attorney. When they're done with their bankruptcy, you wash your hands. You're like, okay, case closed, done. Well, they have a new pain point. Mm-hmm. How do I get credit? How do I rebuild my life? What do I do now? And you're mandated by federal law to give them, some credit training. So you make them sign up for something that's, costs $85 and they have to go through and take an exam so that they can certify that they did it, right? That doesn't help them. What if you create a community that you can just keep feeding people who are post-bankruptcy into to help them rebuild their life? And, now you've got an information product on the back end. There's just so many ideas. Like, you just keep your mind thinking about what those possibilities are, so that as we go into this one-day summit and as we introduce you into James's world, that you start to get a really clear idea of where you're headed as far as this goes. But this is a game. I mean, mark your calendars, folks, right now, the middle of 2020, come back in the middle of 2021. If you actually implement this, if you start, we're going to be doing something really amazing, which I'll tell you about it right now. We haven't talked about it yet on the podcast. When people join James's program, we're going to be doing a 90-day implementation group for that. Now, to go through a group coaching program with me is anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000. And we're going to be doing that for free when, you're going to be able to be part of a group where myself and my staff are going to help you implement that first information product. So it's just, if you could take anything away from this conversation with Bobby, it's not easy, but it's doable. Anybody can do it. And if you can cut out all the mistakes that he made, that I made along the way, and just go straight to the winning formula, how awesome would that be? So that's where I want to leave it. And Bobby, I'm just going to ask you two things. So first of all, can you just one last piece of advice that you want to give anybody who's listening to this when it comes to thinking about how to navigate this process? And the second thing is although you say that you serve online entrepreneurs and therefore it's not really our community, well, we're going to be sticking some lawyers into the online entrepreneur community. And maybe they do need those templates. Maybe they need to start getting, following your journey, in that way. So I want you to share with us also how to do that, how to take that next step with you.
Okay. Happy to do it. So, I mean, the parting advice I would give is this, and I'm going to feed off something you did. Doing this isn't easy, but here's what I want you to think about. I don't know about you like your listeners, but for me, there really haven't been many things in life that were really great that were easy. It's like doing the hard things is where the ultimate payoff comes. And more importantly, like doing the hard things, like in getting through the hard things is where you finally get to the other side where and again, I don't want to make it seem like it's all nirvana and, the heavens open or anything like that. It's not necessarily like that, but what I'll tell you is it's a lot more like that when you do the hard work. So you can either do the hard work and have a huge payoff or not, and not. And so it's that's the decision you have to make for yourself. As for where people can find me, it's bobbyklinck.com is my website. You can kind of see it. We need to redo it, candidly, but you can take a look at it. And, if you want to see kind of things that I'm doing in the marketing space, I don't serve lawyers, but I happen to have a lot of lawyers who come to my community because I think naturally that they hear me and I'm, it resonates. But My real hub is kind of online. I've got a Facebook group, a free group called Badass Online Marketers. It's kind of cheeky and fun because I'm anything but badass, but that's been the moniker I've chosen. So that's kind of where most people connect with me. I chat, and I'll just say, like, I'm open to having conversations with people who are trying to navigate, like, hey, can my thing actually work? I'm happy to do that. Because I like to help people, whether they're lawyers or not, and happy to have those conversations with anyone who has them, any of your listeners.
Awesome. Bobby, thank you so much for your generosity, your time, sharing your insights and your journey. It's an amazing story. Like everybody's story that, there's always something that we can glean from it. We can learn from it. And I'm sure that listeners who are going through and listening to this are definitely getting value from the conversation. So I really appreciate your time and just your generosity in being here. Folks, don't forget to sign up for that one-day summit coming up June 15th. You go to profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue, profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue to sign up. And we're going to keep bringing you these stellar interviews. Looking forward to spending that day with you. And if any of these links are something that you need, you can get them right at the underneath the description of this podcast you're listening to on your podcast player. We've got our show notes there. It's also on our website at profitwithlaw.com. And until next time, just start thinking about how you can put this into practice in your firm, put your thinking hat on and start coming up with ideas, and do yourself a favor and write those ideas down, because what's going to happen is they're going to come a mile a minute and then they're going to leave just as quickly as they came. So start writing them down. And the ones that keep coming back, those are probably the ones that you should listen to.
And that's the end of the interview with Bobby Klinck and the replay episode. I told you you were in for a treat. I told you you'd enjoy it, and I was not lying. I know that you loved that conversation. The next step for you is to sign up for the Hidden Revenue Summit. You want to join us for a full day of knowledge, information on how you can implement this in your law firm. It will take you through exercises. We will help you figure out how to make this work for you. Go to profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue, profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue, and join us on June 15th. If you're listening to this episode after June 15th, no sweat. Don't worry about it. Go to profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue. Put in your information. You'll be taken to a page with the replays of everything you missed on June 15th. We'd love to have you participate. So go to profitwithlaw.com/hidden revenue, and we'll see you soon.